Today, we're taking a deep dive on the 2025 Shed Knives Tuatara. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jack Billings and I'm the CEO and founder of Shed Knives. I started Shed Knives when I was 13 years old, and every year since then, I've been growing and improving and making bigger and better blades like this Tuatara. So first things first, obviously we could get into the knife, but I want to go through the presentation of when you first get this knife delivered to your door. So we have the box. Now, something I did a little bit different for 2025 is I added the larger logo, and partially because the slogan has changed to "there is no substitute," and I thought that was a lot more powerful because so many companies make their knives and they have pride in their product and their quality, but only one can say that there is no substitute to the rest. And as we dive into this video and continue to go through these points, you'll begin to see why that is true. But the face value of "there is no substitute," if I could sum it up, basically take a similar knife on the market like this Tuatara and compare it one by one. Go through the steel, go through the handle, go through the bolts, go through everything, even the things that are not the knife, the community of Shed Knives, the customer service, how fast you get the knife, the free USA shipping. Take every single detail, go one by one, and I can guarantee you that the Tuatara and the rest of the 2025 collection, I can guarantee you that Shed Knives will be number one because there is no substitute to Shed Knives. So let's continue. While opening the box, you're greeted with a few things. You see, number one, the blue heat treat certificate, and then moving up to the top of the box, you see this greeting here. Now, this big block of text is more than just a big block of text. It tells you a little bit of the background of Shed Knives. And like I said, I started when I was 13 years old. I started with a few friends, and it honestly started as just a hobby and something we enjoyed. But moving forward through the years, we started making better and better knives and started understanding that, hey, a lot of people like these blades and are willing to pay for it. So that's how it turned into what it is today. And there is a photo of me here, so that way people know who I am, and that way you can put a face to the name and to the message that I am trying to tell you guys, and that there is no substitute to Shed Knives. So then in the back here we see "there is no substitute" again, nice big letters, and then the front here says 100% USA made, which is very true. Now, the difference between Shed Knives and other brands saying 100% USA made, I add to that, it's 100% USA materials as well. So yes, it's made here. Many companies can make stuff here in America, but most of them get their parts from overseas. Now here at Shed Knives, everything I do is 100% USA made with 100% USA materials. So everything you see with this knife came from somewhere here in the States, here in the United States of America. For example, the Kydex comes from Pennsylvania, the G10 comes from Ohio, the steel comes from New York. These are all things, even the drill bits I use come from New York. So all of the things I use here on this knife, 100% USA made, and I believe more companies should do that. Now, moving into the heat treat certification, basically what this is telling you is where the knife was heat treated, what the rating is, the Rockwell. It's going to be anywhere between 58 and 60 Rockwell, and just the treat type. So I will say that this heat treat certification that I'm showing you now is about to be updated here soon, as I have a new heat treat oven in-house. So that means I don't need to send my knives elsewhere. So things will be slightly changing with the heat treat, but that's simply to make things faster so I can get more knives to you while keeping the quality, if not improving it. So this is just a nice certification here, nice piece of paperwork that goes with your knife. I do add at least one sticker in with every order, and this has the same logo that you saw on the front of the box. So Shed Knives, there's no substitute, and this here is the shed, because I started in a shed. Basically, I compiled all of the questions that I typically get on my knife, and I just put it into this piece of paper. So that way you can have all your information, or really most of your information you want to know, all at once on this piece of paper. And just so you know, I have a spec sheet for each and every knife of the 2025 collection. So here we have the Tuatara, but I'll have one for the Momentum, the Resilience, the Secure Light, all of those knives as well. So this just goes into the main features, but if you do have a question, then you can just send me an email, sales@shedknives.com. And if I get enough of those questions, I just add it to the sheet. Now, let's set all the paper stuff to the side and take a deep dive into the knife. So let's take a look at the overall design of this knife. So we have the Kydex sheath, and this sheath actually climbs up a bit on the knife. And the reason for that is so we can lock in the sheath a little bit better to the knife, where if it just stopped at the blade, it would not be able to lock in enough. Where with this coming up, we can lock it in right in this area, and also we have a lot of wiggle room to get the knife into, to get that blade in, because I see some sheaths that are so thin and so small because they're literally the thickness of the knife, and that's a good way to miss the sheath. And if you have this on your belt, you can drop it into your side, or you can just completely drop your knife, which is not helpful. So that's why I had the sheath climb up the knife handle a little bit, so that way you have more room to kind of funnel the knife in. Now, let's talk about the clip real quick. The clip is made out of Kydex, just like the sheath. This is actually a pretty strong clip, and it's cost effective, so that way it keeps this from being a $600, $700 knife. It keeps it very affordable, and also the clip just matches the sheath. So again, simple to do here in the shop, yet functional. And at the end of the day, shed knives enthusiasts care about function, and that's why they carry the Tuatara. Now, diving into the knife itself, this is a beautiful clip point with a 4.5 inch blade. What I like about the Tuatara specifically is that this has a bit of a straight edge here, but then it does dive into the belly. So you get the best of both worlds with that, where other knives like the Resilience, that's just really all belly. Or you have knives like the Visionary, where those have a lot longer of a straight edge, where this, you get the best of both worlds, straight edge, and moves into the belly. Now, let's keep diving in here with this blade. This is 154 cm steel, again heat treated to 58 to 60 Rockwell. Why did I pick that steel, and why did I pick that Rockwell? Well, 154 cm steel is just, number one, is better. A lot of your big fixed blade companies like Tops and Essie, they're all using 1095 steel, and 1095 is okay, but you have to cover it with Cerakote, because if you don't, it's probably gonna rust. Now, there are some techniques to help keep those knives from rusting, like putting an acid wash on the blade for 1095 steel. However, at Shed Knives, I do not think we need to cover up this beautiful blade. And the thing is, 154 cm, you have a hard time rusting. As long as you oil it here and there, really oil it when you remember, this blade is going to outperform 1095. And what I think is fantastic about 154 cm is that it has the strength of carbon steel. It has the rust proofing, we'll call it, of stainless steel. So technically it is a stainless steel, but it's such a strong steel, you can do so much with it. And then the Rockwell, let's talk about that. 58 to 60 Rockwell, I made it that way so that way you could easily resharpen it in the field. However, with 58 to 60, also keeps a good edge. So if you think of steels like S35VN, that is just a tough steel, and if you heat treat it into what, 60, 62, there is a lot of edge retention with that. However, you go to chop down a tree with it, you're gonna destroy that knife. And also, how many knives are really 1/4 inch thick steel? This is 0.207 to 0.227 inches, so just under a 1/4 inch thick. But let me tell you, this is just tough. And then you add in those handles as well, or those scales, which we'll get into shortly. Now, keeping on with the blade, this is a flat grind blade, or technically a saber flat grind. A saber grind means it stops up the blade, where a normal flat grind would be like a kitchen knife, where it goes all the way to the spine. So this is technically a saber flat grind. And why did I choose a flat grind? Well, guys, when you build a knife for hard use and you build a knife for function, then you need a blade that can withstand that. On knives like the Skewer Light, I do a hollow grind, but that's because they were better for just slicing and carving up a storm, where the flat grind, yes, it's still slicey sharp, however, it's made to chop and it's made for function, because at the end of the day, that's what you need. Now let's keep moving down the knife here. Let's talk about that jimping, laser engraving, and the sharpening choil. Now this jimping, this has, we'll just call it 5 jimps. It has 5 little spots for the jimping, and I move this up the knife so that way when you're really choking up on that knife and you're utilizing that flat edge part of the blade, your thumb is just locked in, ready for action, and that's what you want when you're getting really intricate with the whittling, with the carving, whatever you're trying to do. And for reference, these jimps, or the jimping, whatever you want to call it, the jimping, which that's a good question. What do you call individual pieces of jimping? Is it just a jimp? Tell me in the comments. However, the jimping size is 1/8 of an inch, so I drill this out with drill bits, so that way you get this nice tough jimping there that can really be used more than just for security. You can use this for grinding up wood to start a fire, where a lot of people use the spine. You can just use the jimping here because it's just so tough. I always like to recommend that the jimping, you can get the maximum use while wearing gloves. So put on a nice thick pair of gloves and the jimping will just lock even better into the gloves versus your thumb, because there's only so much material on most people's thumb to grab into the knife, where a glove, that really adds to the security there. Now the laser engraving, this SK25, basically what that means, it means Shed Knives 2025. This is a way to indicate what year this knife was made, because every year I come out with a new line of knives and I put this engraving on it. So if you see knives with SK22, SK23, and so on, you'll see it means Shed Knives and then the year. And the laser engraving is just a fantastic addition, just makes it look really clean. Looks great. Now the sharpening choil is drilled with a 1/4 inch drill bit, and the purpose of the sharpening choil is to allow a distinct gap between your blade and the handle. And there's a little rumor behind this. I don't know where this came from. However, I believe the sharpening choil was made so that way you could sharpen your knife in the dark. So you know, this is my blade, this is my handle. So whether you believe that or not, that's up to you. However, the sharpening choil is functional. And personally, I like to use this portion of the knife on a ferro rod because it's just a nice size for it. 1/4 inch hole definitely helps out. Now, let's continue up the knife. So these G10 scales are dual color, and as you see with this, we have black in the front, tan in the back, kind of does this fade here. That is not the same on every knife with the Coyote Tan. The reason for that is the surface grind. When I do my G10 surface grind, my CNC machines, the surface grind can come out different ways. And in this knife we have black and tan. Sometimes it's just a completely black surface, sometimes it's a completely tan surface. So it just depends on the grind, although you definitely will have a mix of Coyote Tan and black if you get the Coyote Tan color. It's kind of like a fingerprint on your knife for your G10 scales. They're all unique, they all look great, and they have a beautiful contour on there where you still have a nice solid grip, but you get the nice contour on the edges. Now this has 3 Allen screws on each side. I bumped it up from your standard 2, and that's for a few reasons. Well, number one, when we first started making knives in the shed, there were 3 founders of Shed Knives, 3 people who started Shed Knives. So originally we did 3 pins, 3 brass pins for the 3 people. So it was me and then the other 2 guys. So I have kept that simply as tradition because we just always started with 3. And when the first guy left to go do other things, we thought, do we remove the pin or not? And then we were like, you know what? if you leave, it's just going to be one pin, and one pin doesn't hold a knife. So we're just going to keep it at 3. And then the second reason for 3 pins, we also just thought it's secure, because we knew we were going to get into bigger and better knives as we went down the road. So that's why we did 3. So you just have extra security in your knife. Sure, it adds a few dollars to the cost with time and materials. However, security matters most when you're in a situation that needs it. I know if your life was depending on this knife, you would be just fine with the $2 maybe in extra screws here to make sure you have a solid knife. Now these screws are super flush. Again, they're made on my CNC machine in-house. This knife, by the way, is made in-house. Nothing of this knife is outsourced at this time except the laser engraving, which is done by a friend. So is it even really outsourced? And speaking of outsourced, this knife, including the blank, the grind, the scales, the sheath even, everything about this knife is done in-house. I only get the raw materials. I don't get these knives water jet cut out. I CNC cut them out here. I don't have somebody else grind the blade on. I do that here, and the reason for that is so we can guarantee quality and we can guarantee speed. Because when a lot of people want knives, it's very hard to get them knives when they're stuck in somebody else's shop for weeks and weeks on end. Believe me, I have been there. That's why I brought everything back in-house, so that way I could keep things going on a faster cycle. Just touching on one more thing with the scales, we have this ivory G10 liner here, and the liner is another connection to the shed. The shed was painted in ivory white paint, so there's a little connection there, and also it adds a nice definition, nice defined gap between the steel here, the 154 cm blank, and the scale. So just adds a little color improvement or enhancement, you could say. And you can take these off, by the way. They're not like glued on there or stuck on the scales. You can take them off if you want. So I just like them. I think they look great and wanted to make it customizable for what you guys want. Now continuing on the handle, but not with the G10 scales, more the profile of this, we have a fantastic finger groove right here. And why do I have this very distinct finger groove? Well, imagine this. You need to stab into something. Maybe you're using this in a self-defense situation. You do not want your hand to slide up that blade. Ugh, that would be very bad. So you want your hand to be completely strapped in, locked in, ready to go, whatever you're doing. So I notice in the field, I use my knife a lot to stab into wood, and then I pull material on it, I grind material, I cut material. So I stab my knife into a log or something quite often, and I just like this function because it works for me, and I notice it works for a lot of people as well. And then going up here, same thing. If you had to stab into something, your hand is still going to be secure, and also it just adds a really nice comfortable feel. Where other knives like the 2025 skewer, some people like to be up close and personal to that blade, and hey, go for it. There's a reason why the skewer is the #1 bestseller of shed knives, and you are right up on that blade. However, there's a lot of people who don't want to be up close and personal with the blade. They at least want a little separation here, so that's why I did that. And let's move on to really the last thing about this knife here, and this is the triangular lanyard hole. Now, this lanyard hole is very different than most lanyard holes out there, and that's because you can add things like D-rings to it. Now, why in the world would you want to add a D-ring to your knife? Well, the thing is, D-rings allow you to attach your knife to things. For example, a boat. If you are boating, if you're in a kayak, a canoe, and you flip that thing, if your knife is not locked in, if it's not tied in with something, then you're losing that knife, because a 1/4-inch piece of 154 cm steel, it's sinking to the bottom, guys. Because I assume you don't want to lose your brand new knife. You can just attach it with some rope, some line, 550 cord, or you can put that on a D-ring and then just tie your D-ring in. So when you need to use your knife, just unhook the D-ring, you can use it, and bang, you're ready for action. So I like the Tuatara Overall, it's always been my favorite. It first released in 2022. It's just a tough blade, guys. I like it, it's functional, and it's cost effective. Because out of the thousands and thousands of other knives and knife companies out there, the Tuatara is just $219 shipped to your door. So if you're in the USA, the price you see is the price you pay. Free USA shipping comes on all 2025 knives. Now, if you're in another country, I'm sorry, you have to pay the shipping on that because it varies by country. However, here in the US, you get free USA shipping. So $219, and even for my foreign customers, people who are shipping knives to France, Norway, Thailand, wherever you're shipping this knife, it's generally cheaper than other competitors out there. And the thing is, are they really competitors? Because at the end of the day, there is no substitute to shed knives. If you want to be a winner, winners carry shed knives. And I'm not saying that as a marketing tactic or whatever. It's true. I get emails and photos of people carrying my knives, and those people are winners. They're people who get things done. So I've never seen somebody who isn't winning carrying my knife. So if you think you're a winner, but you don't have a shed knife, then go to shedknives.com, pick one up today. I have limited inventory. Depends on when you're watching this video. I might have this color in stock, might not. So best thing to do, just click the link in the description, go check this out. And if you have any questions on this knife, anything maybe I missed that you want me to add in a future video, go ahead, leave a comment down below. If you see a comment you like down in the comment section, hit the like button on that and even reply to them to tell them. There's one thing that's very special about shed knives, and it's the Shed Knives community. The Shed Knives community is on a variety of Shed Knives platforms and also in person too when we do events like Blade Show or other events like that. It's great to see how many people are here to help each other and provide feedback and just help each other improve. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to improve and to do better together, and that's what makes the Shed Knives community special. So I encourage you guys, join the movement today. Go to shedknives.com, pick up the Tuatara, and I am certain you guys will love it because I've loved it since it's released in 22, and now we're here with the 25 version of this. It's gone through so many improvements, so many enhancements. It's just a great blade. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. I'm posting more and more videos, lots of resources, lots of skills, so you don't want to miss out on that. So thank you guys for watching today. My name is Jack. I make knives, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.